So what is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Speakerboxx, man. Today I am super pumped to have an amazing legend to me, man. So guys, without further ado, Mr. John Acquaviva, what's up, dude?
Oh, pleasure to be with you, Alex. When we kind of reconnected, I didn't realize we have such a long history. So hopefully we can cover. So we're overdue, and thanks for having me on. And as you can see, I'm working hard in my garden, and so you're forcing me to cut into my valuable work time. But I found time for you, buddy. My pleasure. No, no, all kidding aside.
Dude, well, look, man. So if we are gonna take it like that, bro, some of the first music I ever heard of electronic music, I was 12 years old. That album actually was Richie Hawtin's Plastic Man, right? And that was
Mm.
the music album. And that was the first kind of thing that I listened to, man. And then like about a couple years later, so I would say that this was maybe 93, maybe a
That's
couple
about
years
right.
later,
I think
man.
that's the right
I
plus or minus a year, but that's
dude,
right. Yeah.
a couple years later, I was like that music blew my mind, changed my life, and then I started delving further into it, man. And then I came across X Mix. So X Mix, your mix, Richie Hawtin's mix was an album also at the end, bro, that like just completely changed my mind, man. It was something that was just I had never heard anything like that before. There definitely wasn't music like that being played in Miami at the time. Uh, and it was just, bro, it was fucking mind-boggling. It really was, dude. It was one of those kind of things that just intrigued my mind so much. And I thought that you and Richie were these guys from another fucking planet, bro. So I was like, how is it that these dudes are doing this? And then like then I came to find out that you guys were doing your stuff in Detroit and yeah, dude. So I mean, so it kind of started early for me, man. I want to say that maybe this was maybe 95, 96.
Yeah, that's all 93 to 95, and that's really kind of you. And I mean, it was kind of strange when I was young, because I certainly felt like I lived in a little goldfish bowl. I was a highly successful DJ during the 80s, but I learned to play everything, like and mix everything. And Until I started traveling, I realized one of the reasons I travel is to meet a few crazy freaks like me. So yeah, I was thinking about this. It was just this past week, the birthday of George Clinton, who is like, his roots are in funk, but he comes from another planet. I'm currently coming from my green planet called my garden. But sometimes you need to, when you're young, it's weird to you feel like a freak. But as you get older, I take comfort in having my own perspective. And some of those things you talked about, obviously, Rich's Plastic Man album came from his mind, the corners of his mind, and reached people. That's what an album is like a message in a bottle, right? You're sending messages to the world through your music. And for me, I never made my own albums, but I embarked upon a series of mix CDs, and it was about bringing culture and taste to people. So just like here, I'm sitting in my garden, and I love the simplest, but also sometimes the most complex ingredients. And that's what music is, right? So I cook a lot, and mixing music is like mixing food. I love my classics, but I just don't eat meat every day, or I just don't eat spinach every day. So for people who just play one kind of music, I mean, life is boring. I don't eat the same shit every day. And I like my go-to foods. I'm Italian, so I can eat pasta every day. I can eat salad every day. I can eat beans every day. But and I enjoy them, and they have to be the best. And so with music, for me, when I give a selection, it's like serving a banquet to people, right? So that X Mix allowed us to be visionaries of loving electronic music. And even me, I feel I've been more than techno. Hell, I mean, techno was restrictive. I was a very successful disco DJ. So a lot of people, when they were booking me, I'm like, anything but techno, like, I mean, I could do, and I did a lot of raves, but I loved clubs. And then we started Definitive, House for All. And you're right, some parts of the world, there, New York was into its sound, the big room sound. And then, excuse me, someone's calling. I'm technically on quarantine. I hope that wasn't the government. We can talk about that later. So I'm quarantining in my garden after coming back from Spain. But, a lot of cities were a little bit one dimensional in their taste. And I've got great memories of going to the music conference and going to, whatever those clubs were on Ocean Drive. Was it Warsaw or something? The Masters of Work
Jesus
would always do
Christ,
some.
bro.
And
Now
then
we're talking
before Groove
old
Jet with
school.
Danny. And so, I mean, yeah, I mean, I would go to New York. I mean, you know, to Limelight. I played in the old location at Studio 54. Toronto had some of the best super clubs. So, I mean, I've got firsthand experience. It's not the legend of what people say. I went there and checked it out for myself. And for the most part, they were inspiring. But I can tell you that when you get there, it's like the Wizard of Oz. The Emerald City is just mostly hype. I come from a really good school of DJs where we actually were really good mixers. I'm technically, you know, I'm mostly a humble guy, but I'm technically, you know, one of the better technical DJs around, and I don't lack confidence, and I can go toe to toe with anyone on song selection technique. Obviously, now I'm a piece of history, but in the early days, I felt confident. I respected different people, and I wanted to learn from them, and I wanted to be inspired. But damn, as I traveled the world, you know, little old John Acquaviva from little old London, Ontario, you know, held his own. And same with little old Rich Houghton from Windsor. You know, our ideas were as good as anyone else's. And so here we are, and sticking to who we are instead of trying to kiss ass and pander. So, you know, I've always kind of stayed anchored here, and it keeps me simple. I go to the edge of the universe in all kinds of regards. So I can be simple more than ever, but I can go toe to toe with complexity. But I don't look to complicate things. You know, I'm not here to, you know, have some, you know, pissing contest. You know, with an interviewer. I get along with people, so I'm happy to share ideas. Anyways, so you had a long intro, and I had a long intro answer, but let's keep going. So hopefully we're on the same page. I think
No,
we
no,
are.
no.
Like,
Absolutely,
totally.
dude. You know, to me is just, bro. Just I mean, how did you guys just kind of get started in the electronic thing, man? I mean, what gave you the buzz? I mean, so I mean, you're from London, Ontario, but I mean, you made your way
Yeah.
to
So
Detroit, no?
I worked in a club called it was called Notorieties, but for short, it was called Notes. And over 20 years, we had 4 DJs. They all went on to greatest things, and I was the youngest. Often the youngest is the overachiever. But my club in London was part of a group of, well, it was Southern Ontario, but notably Toronto, Montreal have always been fantastic party towns. Uh, Coming out of disco, this was a vibrant area, and the quality of the discos and the quality of the DJs were off the charts. Here, DJs could actually mix. I remember learning to mix on 1200s, and when I was a teenager, I was a busboy at the Ramada Inn, and we had a big disco. This is at the end of the 70s, so I was getting to sneak in because I worked at the place, and we had everyone from Kool and the Gang coming here to all the people on their way to Toronto, Montreal. So they would stop off on Thursdays and do live shows, and then the DJ would mix, and that's where I learned, you know, to pitch up my records, and I got to go in, and then so my DJs went on to be the first super DJs of the clubs in Toronto. So Government is one of the all-time world's greatest clubs, but before it became Government, it was called RPM. The DJ at RPM, Terry Kelly, who made a number of records on Top Cat, Terry Kelly was the second DJ who worked at my club at Notes. The first DJ was a guy called Jeff Allen, who worked at Toronto's first super club called the Copa. And my DJ, who had worked, you know, as I was his backup when I was 18, and it was the best disco in town, went on to be the #2 DJ at Copa. These guys were earning over $2,000 a week in the early 80s. So I don't come from a struggling DJ background. We were all really good, and we were the few people on earth who were making really good money. So my friends went to a super club of 2,500 people, and Joe, who was my friend, you know, was the #2 DJ, and he was making $2,500 a week. Okay, so so I already was making really good money, and I inherited that job, and the four of us ruled this club for 20 years, and my Monday nights became famous. So while disco was dead in the 80s, I had, along with many cities, there was that thriving club. So between my club and then there was an after hours club. I just forgot the name. It was a gay club, but all of us would go in the early 80s before the world, you know, fell apart with AIDS. But it was like, oh, the gay scene, the trendy kids, and anything else and in between. And we'd all party all night, sharing music and good times together. And so that was the scene. It was about 300 people every fucking weekend, and it was just all about good music. And there was a couple of us. My friend Rick, who passed away, you know, he passed away from AIDS. I used to fill in for him on gay nights at the, I literally playing, man perish, I was a male stripper at a go-go bar. Now I'm pretty straight, but man, I've done some gay
No, man,
parties
I've DJed
and
some
gay
gay events
stripper
too, man.
night was
I don't,
off the
yeah, I
charts.
got no problem with it.
So I mean, I've done
Yeah,
everything,
hell yeah.
like, and so my experience like is, but at the same time, life is about experience, isn't it? It's about tasting life. So no regrets, and I've done thousands and thousands of gigs. I used to work every night, man. So
Shit, dude. So in this time, I mean, and especially being
people
able,
can't imagine that, right? DJ played all night. A DJ's like a starting quarterback or whatever analogy, or a starting football player in the real world of football, like soccer. You don't let your understudy. I was like the number 2 DJ at the best disco in town. And I didn't get a chance to play for people until my guy gave me a Monday night that was empty, and I turned that into a huge night, which is how I earned my reputation. So he would never let me play on a weekend. Plus, I was like 19 and all the clubbers were 28. So, they like soul and funk, and I had to play their music, whereas I wanted to play more faster paced. I was playing like Depeche Mode or Erasure or, New Order or some shit, all that dance electronic stuff. And, my new wave music wasn't cut out for the weekends when they were listening to soul and funk. But I learned to play that, and I love it. I mean, SOS Band, everything from Shaka Khan to Cheryl Lynn to whatever.
so your
just
sound
like
has always been
Patrice
very, very
Rushen.
eclectic and always, just a bit of everything.
Yeah, not eclectic in the sense that I'm all over the place.
No,
But
I mean where the
it's
mix
like
makes
food.
sense.
I could
but
serve you a vegetarian dinner, and it'll be one of the best dinners you've had, or I can serve you meat, and it'll be one of the best meat
yeah, man. Well,
dinners
look,
you've had.
I
So
call that
I
being
learned to play
diverse.
soul and
Yeah.
funk. I learned to, because I love it. Soul and funk is like fucking amazing. And actually, I was thinking about George Clinton, and I finally got a chance to hang out with him. I was on stage with him. He invited us all on stage, and the shit that George did, and the evolution of James Brown, and George was one of the next level funk guys. But funk, in many eyes of the purists of soul, for example, the funk guys were too fucked up and they needed a downbeat because James was so fucking awesome. For James Brown, it was like the downbeat, and his players were so good. It's all about the boss. You watch me on the downbeat, and then you guys can do your shit, and then you're back to me on the beat every time you fucking watch me. And that's James Brown, tough as nails, Then the funk guys were all so fucked up. It's like, let's keep the downbeat going so we remember where the fuck we all are, because no one was as dominant. And George Clinton, for example, James Brown was dominant as fuck. He's like a pit bull, right? George's fucking friendly as hell. He's been doing this 2-year perpetual tour. George is not here to kick Bootsy Collins' ass or anyone. George is like, let's have a party, but let's somehow find a way to stay together. So funk evolved like downbeat, bam. Then you got all the other guys, all my hip hop friends. I'm playing them fucking Roger Troutman from Zap. I'm like, fuck, this is like fucking Snoop or Tupac. I'm like, yeah, who's their daddy? That's fucking funk right there. I mean, I played that shit, so I know that shit. And I love that shit.
So
I'm covering my bases in my ass. It's like,
no.
just have a broad appetite for fucking
For sure,
groove
dude.
and food and food,
For sure,
and
sure.
alcohol and everything else.
so let me ask you this. Okay, so I mean, so I can see that you're really, really big into the funk stuff, but I mean, you did start.
As
You
references
did start
to where I'm coming from, right?
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, well, look. So, but being that you're into the
and
the
electro
funk,
bass and the Miami bass beats, like Afro Rican, Two Live Crew, Luke Skywalker Records. This is how I got into Cybertron. This is how I got into Detroit. So when funk was kind of irritating, the younger people were playing the more booty stuff, and then you got the Wrecking Crew, even NWA on their first EP. Twilight Zone was a fucking electro track. Let's be real. Egyptian Lover. I mean, I played that shit inside and out, but that was connected to Section 25 on Factory Records, which was the least. So I could tell you all the special records that brought
the younger
scenes
generation doesn't know
as
shit
a
about the
DJ,
Miami
right?
bass. Yeah, they don't know what's up with that sound so much.
Well, that's too bad for them, but I do, and I know it, and I could do sets, with that shit, and that's just a lost art. And people I literally found 4 tapes of me mixing in '89, super fast. I used to mix like Jeff Mills, which is how I got the name +8. So technically the same. And then I kind of got bored mixing with 3 decks, especially when techno happened, because techno's not that hard to mix 3-4 decks because it's all the same shit at the end of the day. I used to mix real records with real, and that's where you have to know the breaks and the beats. And then everything with drum machines made mixing easier. So by the time a drum machine started dominating, I could mix in my sleep and on a drunk and whatever else. Like my concentration, you just can't
Yeah,
wreck
no,
my
it's
concentration.
complete.
It's
It's
fucking drum
completely
machines,
different. Yeah,
man.
it's
I
completely
didn't
different when
need
you're mixing
I
records
didn't
like
need
that.
a sync button. Yeah, I didn't need a sync button because I could mix real drums. Mixing drum machines, fuck, who needs a sync button? I could do that shit in my sleep. So that's, yeah, you know,
No,
there's my
for
confidence. Like,
sure, dude.
really? DJs, you can't mix drum machines on the
Yeah,
beat?
yeah,
Are
no,
you kidding me?
that's the truth. I mean, there is a huge difference between mixing tracks that have been done, like you said, obviously electronically,
Yeah,
or mixing records
yeah,
that it's an actual drummer.
yeah.
And
We used to have a slag because I was just doing a lot of hip hop too. And I used to slag hip hop DJs when we were all mixing because I'm like, you know, like some guys couldn't even mix you know, Kool-Aid. They couldn't even mix a pre-mixed packet of drink for drinks. So that was a slag. You know, some DJs were so bad they couldn't mix, let alone music. Anyways, do people still drink Kool-Aid right now?
you know
No,
what, man? It's
whatever.
actually weird that you say that because I actually thought about it. I'm like, yo, I haven't had Kool-Aid in like 15 years. I went to the store and I saw it and I was like, dude, I haven't had that shit in years.
It's I'm sure it tastes
The same way it did in the 60s.
I'm just the same. I don't drink that shit
So
anymore.
let me ask you this though, dude.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously, you know, you guys did end up starting your label. You guys started Plus 8, and then after Plus 8, you guys, you know,
Yeah.
eventually started Definitive. But like, where did that come about, bro? You guys just kind of started making
Yeah.
your records. You're like, fuck it, let's just have our own way of
Well,
putting it out.
well, I mean, when you're young, you just want the world to take attention. So, you know, Rich and I certainly connected. Or, you know, Rich is like 7 years younger than me. So, I was a successful DJ, and I started playing. Like, we still got you there? Hold on, man. I haven't even been drinking. I lost you here. Did I lose the video? You got the video
Yeah,
on
no,
still?
I don't got video.
Let me get the video on. Here we are. Wow, it's just I need an assistant. I need a road manager. Hold on a sec here. Okay, great, we're good. So, so Rich and I connected over more industrial, you know, electronic sounding stuff, and so obviously Plus 8 was the way I was mixing. Also, with my old mixtapes, I found flyers in '88 where, you know, I was Acquaviva Plus 8. I even had a Michael Jordan. I had a Chicago, and I got it off a friend who owed me money. One of my MCs who couldn't pay for a recording session. So I took the a starter jacket, the Chicago Bulls, that had number 23 on it, and then I put my name on it, and I still have the jacket, the Chicago Bulls jacket that says Acquaviva, and then I took off the 23 and put Plus 8 on it. So I like it, and you know, everything from troop gear to whatever, and then so we connected and made techno records. But then once we got accepted or at least recognized in the world for techno, I mean, holy shit, when I started traveling, I'm like, let me play your disco. I'm like, dude, you're a techno guy. I'm like, dude, give me a chance. You have no idea what kind of a DJ I am. So I'd go play house clubs and holy fuck. And I'd play some old disco, like, holy fuck, you know that shit? I'm like, fuck, who's your daddy, man? Like, are you kidding me? Like, you know, I know my shit. Like, thank you for giving me the chance. And then as we're getting more and more into techno, Rich too was playing. I mean, Rich has got great taste. I mean, he's definitely king of techno and Mr. Plastic Man and all, but you know, we were doing after parties, and when I saw him play in Detroit in '89, and we became friends, he was mixing everything. He was playing Inner City, you know, he was playing, you know, whatever. I remember seeing Rich and then Blake Baxter at the Majestic, and so everything goes in Detroit. There was only, again, you know, in the shelter there was whatever a maximum 200 freaks. So when you're playing all night, you're going to play everything. And so then with our techno success, our friends are like, man, you guys are more than techno. So when we, you know, Blunted Dummies is a great track. We were playing it, and I think it was the 5th release, and we licensed it. And, you know, music, just rockin' music, beautiful music, you know. And that showed the world that we're more than techno. And Definitive was certainly helpful for me, but also helpful for Rich in showing people we're not one-dimensional. So, you know, I take that as a compliment when you call me eclectic. You know, Rich is eclectic. I mean, he's more iconic. I don't believe in heroes. Therefore, I don't want to be anything to anyone other than someone, you know, can say, wow, I enjoyed your set. I'm not here to be someone's hero. But I understand the importance of music. So, you know, I'm not that selector. You know, Rich is like definitely an icon, but Definitive and many of the things I've done are the fact that I'm more than one dimensional, and I can mean something to you or not. So to many techno people who don't know the history, like I'll show up at Rich's, one of Rich's dinners, and I'm wearing black, and a lot of people are like, oh, that's super not cool to not wear black for techno, and people are like, wow, that's John Acquaviva, he can wear whatever the fuck he wants, and I've earned it. I don't need to wear black clothes at a techno event, or I'm not also going to be a clown and dress inappropriate, but I'm going to be myself, and I'm not afraid to be myself, and that's also what the music is, right? And so I'm more of an iconoclast. I'm one of the few people who actually is an iconoclast instead of an icon. I never wanted to be a hero, and so I now take it with grace and pleasure, but it's not why I did it. I didn't do it to be fucking famous, and I don't want to be, I don't like being on stage and jumping up and down. I'm actually good, and I want to be paid for being good, as opposed to, oh, you're a star, and I have a certain haircut or have a certain,
I know that's not your deal at all, bro.
word,
Yeah.
I walk away from all that shit, and I found a way to make money. I'm actually, I work in the daytime. I found a way to make money without having to be a clown. I think a lot of our society is based on, icons, be they the sports icons, and a lot of them are far from heroes. A lot of them are fall short. A few of them were inspiring, and most of them were eye-opening. Going, wow, I used to look up to that person. Wow, I made up people to be more than they are. So I'm aware that still happens, and some people are inspiring, and other people are a reality check. Going, wow. Don't believe in false gods or whatever.
I understand what you mean, but you know what? To be honest with you, bro, but in all fairness, there are two things that I believe you're responsible for, that you've been able to give back to the community, that I think people are super thankful for, bro. One, Final Scratch. Two, fucking Beatport, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I talk about them proudly, and I talk about how I was part of the team. I was certainly, I was the lead guy on Final Scratch, and all my DJ friends thought I was crazy. I remember actually first time I was talking about, first time Danny Tenaglia, Danny's super lovely. I love him to death, and he's one of the few elders I have. And he's like super vinyl guy, and goes back, and we've had the best sessions and private sessions with friends and love of music. But when I first told him, he's like, oh, I don't know, I like it, but I don't know. And he became one of the most loyal followers because he got to put all of his records on Final Scratch. But all my friends, they're like, wow, this is amazing. But they thought I was crazy because I was also, us old guys, we're talented in that it took us a lifetime to become masters, like Carl Cox, like Danny, me. I'm part of that group, right? We paid our fucking dues, man.
Yeah, absolutely, bro.
And Final Scratch got fast tracked it for a lot of people, but I don't regret that. And Beatport obviously Beatport was important in many ways, but along with Joan Temple, Brad Rouillet, Eloy Lopez in Denver, when they're like, hey, Final Scratch changed our lives, we should revisit this, distribution thing. And up until then, music was regional and fragmented, right? But Beatport brought together everyone at the same time, so that, again, I was an elite DJ that when I went to my handful of shops, I had the 1 or 2 or 3 copies reserved for me because I was dropping 1,000 or 2,000 euros, and not all DJs invested in the scene. So I, of all people, I'm going to get the exclusive for 3 months. I'm going to get the record sent to me. I'm going to get the records held for me. But part of me as a DJ, I'm so confident in my mixing and my track selection that when I make money playing other people's records, I actually am proud to say it's this artist, it's a friend, or I'm a fan of this, go buy it. Because part of my role as a DJ, I play other people's music really well to the point that I make a lot of money, but I also want that artist to get recognition and at least a few bucks or whatever they can make. So Beatport brought it all together, and it democratized DJing, because the people who love music, instead of people like me getting a record for 3 months exclusive, they got it pretty much at the same time. So I'm confident enough in my skills that, a young kid should have the music. It's how I deliver the ingredient, right? But other DJs still didn't like that, although Beatport opened the floodgates. So, and those things are more important to me than being a star. It was me, trying to fit into the community, and I happen to be a bit of a catalyst. Well, thank you. No, thank you. I mean, I'm trying to say in a nice, humble way. I realize that I'm that, but I'm thankful to be part of that guy for the community. And I also structured business deals that we all made some money, top down. I fought hard for Beatport to be, more per unit royalty. I'm an underground guy. I don't think I'm ever going to have 1 million streams. I probably have had 1 million views or whatever on YouTube, but let's be real. I'm an underground guy. I haven't had I haven't had a lot of multi-million selling or streaming things. So if I've got 10,000 sales of an underground track, or 10,000 streams, 10,000 streams ain't going to get me $10 for a cup of coffee. But at Beatport, it's like, buy your favorite artist a cup of coffee, which is spending $2, right? And that's how I thought about it. That's how I think about life. Don't make me beg, but if you like me, buy me a drink or buy me a coffee or buy me dinner. And that's how the marketplace should work for me. Most artists do it as a labor of love. They are kind of starving or they have a day job. I've made it my life, but I want the system to work, and I want someone who makes an EP maybe to make $500 or $1,000 and feel part of that community, right? And not everyone thinks that way. So I'm not a socialist, but fuck, some people are asshole capitalists. Let's be real,
So,
I'm
no,
not
so,
poor.
well, I mean, but basically
but I'm
you.
not stupid, and I don't take advantage of artists.
For sure, dude. And you know what? Look, so I mean, Beatport has been around. If I can remember correctly, did it start in 2004?
We started 2004. We came together with the guys 2003. In fact, Beatport are doing some great things. I'm pretty distant, but I know I've just reconnected with Jonas Temple, the main founder. He was the first CEO for the longest time. And he's been really active in Beatport doing a lot of the streaming and stuff. And it's great to see Jonas back. And, I stay in touch. Actually, Liz Miller, one of our first core group teams, she's now at Facebook Music. All the people at Beatport, they've gone on to do some great things. We just caught up with Liz. Really proud of Liz Miller. My friend Tom Hoke, who's there.
You know what, man?
These are all
Hoke,
the original team.
I met Tom Hoke back when it first opened. Like when you guys first started.
Yeah,
Tom,
he was
a
super
cool
house
dude.
head. He's a sweetheart. His heart is fucking larger than life, man. Still is. He loved these people. Did the whole world should give them honorary mentions and some history of electronic music. Each one of these people are all-stars, and they put their heart and soul into the community for the good of the community.
Beatport is a phenomenon, bro. There isn't any part of the world or any DJ on the fucking planet that does not know what it is, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's like that they've reached that level.
Couldn't have planned it any better. Couldn't have planned it. We seat of our pants, but the intentions were good, and obviously it turned out well.
Well, even to the point, for instance, as where my elder brother, who's not a DJ, knows who Beatport is. So it's even gotten to those extents, So I mean, it's there to stay. And you know what?
Yeah, very very pleased and proud of it. Thank you.
You know what, man? As far as Final Scratch is concerned, so I started DJing with vinyl, and then when the whole CD age came along, I got into it and I was using it, but I remember really not like being too happy about it. I remember like thinking, okay, this is cooler because I don't have to bring a gigantic crates of records anymore to gigs. But I had to keep getting all these burned CDs, and I got all these fucking CDs in my house.
Yeah.
And it just became this whole CD nightmare everywhere. So then I saw this shit come out with a laptop, and when I first saw it, I was like, what the fuck is that? Because I was starting to gather a few MP3s and things like this at the time, and dude, I was one of those. I remember there were people thinking, well, that's cheating and all kinds of bullshit, and it was like, I didn't think so at all.
Yeah, to me, it was obvious, like, same in business. All your documents are on your hard drive. All your records, the hard drive becomes the new record box. Duh, because CDs were temporary, weren't they? CDs were just a smaller but similarly inconvenient way of lugging things around. I used to travel with 2 big record boxes because I would do, I'd have to have at least 200 records, and I'd have a shoulder bag as I brought things along.
And over the years, how much of a fucking mission was
now
that?
I've got like 20,000 tracks on my hard drive. Yeah. So it allowed, people, like at least me, to have even more repertoire because my version pretty strong, which, I can on a special party pull anything out of my ass. Whereas then I would have 10 magic, super secret weapons or something like every DJ would do. And there were still DJs then, but even now, or whether they're playing vinyls, CDs, people just have a small folder of 50 songs. It's all the same tech house, and they play song, song, song. It's boring, you know, because it just shows that they're one dimensional. But that's fine. I mean, that's just a level of artistry, right? But a hard drive as a record box, duh. I just saw it, and other people didn't quite see it. My older friends are like, "Wait a minute, there's that touch and feel of records." I'm like, "Yeah, me too. I need to look at the artwork and stuff." But you know, it took me years to learn how to search, and I'm actually pretty, you know, anal and OCD. So I have keywords, and other people just have like track 1, 2, 3, which confirms that they play random tracks. Me, I'm like super funky, boomty, whatever, you know, uplifting, you know, pounder, you know,
All my playlists
funky
are
bass.
very
You know,
detailed
I
like
can
that
type
too,
in,
huh?
yeah, as they should be. It shows that you have, you know, you have a sense of what you're doing. Because how can you randomly play track 1 on your tech file? What the fuck does that mean? You know, and so it's like training. It's training, and I've done this in interviews. Like, whether you're an athlete or a musician, you need to train. DJs don't train; they party. Partying is not training. To listen, you need to work out. Even the best athletes in the world train, and they do some, calisthenics. They do some running. They do, and a DJ who doesn't prepare their repertoire. So when we had Final Scratch, because you still had to plug it in, some DJs like, yeah, but doing a sound check. I'm like, what do you mean doing sound checks a pain in the ass? If you were in a band, you'd be doing sound check all fucking day. Invest 30 minutes in your fucking career when you're making $2 then, to do a good job so you can make more money and you have access. But people are like, man, that's a lot of work. I'm like, well, you get paid a lot of money. So shut the fuck up and prepare for your job. Like, how can you cry on my shoulder? How can you cry in an interview that doing a sound check sucks? I only want to work an hour to make $2,000. Or you tell that to some poor working fucking slob. Respect your fucking opportunities, DJs. Hitting the start button and jumping up and down is not respecting your art, with all due respect. Put a little something back, and also a musician and a virtuoso. There's my 2 bits. Jay, what are your responsibilities for
Dude,
it?
you know what? See, I always found like look, I came from a vinyl background, so that's a given. But as soon as the computer came into the
Yep.
mix, I actually adopted it. I adopted to it very well. I found its uses to be basically like you're saying. In my cases, I was playing long sets. I have to play 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. I'd have all my music in a hard drive.
Yep.
I'd have it all, and because I have to play
Yep.
6 hours, I gotta play all different kinds of shit, bro. Some chill out stuff, then some deep house stuff, and some vocally stuff. And as the day goes by, we start
Yep.
doing one of these. You know what I'm saying? But
Yep.
I mean, think how many fucking records you play in 6 hours. You want to do the math at the end? It's 16 tracks per hour.
It's still not that
I don't know.
much. Yeah, right. Because I could mix fast, and I could play 40 records or more in an hour, but that's the peak hour of where you're putting on a show. Because I could do tricks, and I was mixing house music. And I also have on my house sets, I would go into hip hop and stuff, and I would do, mix all that. But basically, when you're creating that atmosphere, you're right. It's about 10 to 15 tracks, because sometimes you're talking and drinking with your friends,
But
or
you
when you're
need an
warming up.
array of
But
a
you're right.
shitload of records,
Yeah.
bro. You need to have access
Yeah.
to fucking everything.
Yeah.
So that's why I
At
was
my
into it.
discotheque, yeah, and my discotheque in the 80s, because I would do rock nights, I'd do hip hop, I'd do soul funk. I think I had 2,500 or 3,000 records. So it was a library of records in the booth, because it was a real disco. None of this fucking one crate of records. Like, shut the fuck up. It's just not gonna happen, right? Yeah. So I know you're old school, Alex.
You know what?
So,
You know what? To be honest with you, I had Final Scratch, and then I went to Serato, and then I went to Tractor. You know what?
Yeah.
I now I use USB, so I use Record Box, but I still
Yeah.
use Tractor if I have to play a gig more than. If I'm gonna play more than 3 hours, I prefer to bring Tractor, because I don't know. I have access to all my
Yeah,
shit.
and so Record Box. Me too. I do a lot of impromptu parties, so I can't just show up as somewhere and go, wow, I wish you had music. Oh, I just happen to have my laptop here. So, I mean, I had a key, and I'd play Record Box. But now Record Box, with the newest equipment, the search function's really good. So Record Box is really functional, and I'll do a lot of my shows
you know what
on
the
that,
problem
just
is
because,
too, is that the search is good,
yeah.
but my problem is that with my tracks.
The
No,
screen.
no, not well, like that
Yeah.
too, but like, but
Okay.
it's the search with the computer because sometimes I don't know the name of the song, but I know the name of the guy, or I know, or or the
Yeah.
other way around,
Yeah.
or I don't know any of that shit,
Yeah.
but I downloaded it yesterday and maybe I know a word from it. So my search is I
Yeah.
can do it seconds.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I've learned. It's not pleasant, but I've learned, and plus I keep playlists of parties, and anyways, so.
Yeah. But right now, yeah. So record box if it's just for a few hours, so easy peasy, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
So right now, man, what do you have going on, dude? Are you have any productions that you maybe be working on? Something you're releasing in the next few weeks?
I've been in the studio a lot again. I was with my friend Zahir. He's got one of the best vintage studios on earth in Toronto. Everyone works or does some work there. Um, I haven't released anything yet. I haven't finalized anything, and it's not like I've got writer's block. But I've always been a DJ. I said earlier, I've never like a lot of artists sh- wants to show their heart and soul or expose or exercise something. I like playing other people's records. I've been really enjoying playing. It's been the first time in over 40 years that I've gone so long without partying. Also, the first time in 30 years that I've gone so long without travel. I was just in Ibiza. I did a lovely surprise unannounced sunset session in Formentera at my friend's hotel, just the
Which one,
people
La
sitting at
Salina?
tables. Yeah, yeah.
So you're with
And
Anna
I'm going
Tour.
back. That's right, Anna Tour and
Yeah,
Jordi,
Jordan. Yeah, cool people.
Mari, and super
Good people.
lovely.
Good people.
And so I was just connecting with my real friends. I travel the world and I stay in touch with real friends, and so I really enjoyed
Bro, how was
Ibiza.
that,
That was
man?
not a
You lucky
party, but
motherfucker,
it
bro.
was
I
just
wish I was there,
amazing.
dude.
And then I did a party near Castellon. Really amazing people, cordoned off areas on a beach, entre dos aguas, and I was scheduled to do Pasha in Barcelona, but everything got shut down. I mean, I love. See, I've spent a lot of my life in a studio, but I love my life in a bar, meeting people, having drinks with them, making them happy. And I like connecting. So I really am happy playing other people's records. That said, I think I've got 300 songs registered, and most of my work. And this also speaks to like I can't go too long, but this speaks to ghost DJing. I must be the only dumb fucking DJ who's ever shared credits. If you notice everything I've done, it's always me and someone else. Why was I so fucking stupid to share the credits and other DJs, have ghostwriters? But anyways, maybe that's a sore topic. But me, I'm the kind of guy who shares the credits. So I've done a lot of stuff together with people.
No, I've definitely seen. I mean, you've
So
got tracks with
I
Oliver
don't pay people off.
Giacomoto, Alex Kenji, Manny
Yeah,
Delamar.
Olivier is one of my dearest friends, and we had a run for 10 years where we were just like in sync. We could finish each other's sentences, and certainly each other. I'd go, and in a day we'd spend more time cooking, but we'd do probably line up 4 EPs on the core ideas, and he'd flesh them out, and we would each come up with an idea, or one of us, but we'd go bam bam bam, and we'd have like every couple
You
months, every
guys
two
were
three
putting
months,
out
we'd
some
have
fire, bro.
four
Yeah.
EPs. Yeah, bombs. I mean, I think I've had directly and indirectly through the label 6 number 1s on Beatport. For a guy who's not a pop star, I think Gale in the O is still the second longest ever #1 or something like. I
That
don't know.
record is
I've
so
got a
sick.
couple of things that people are surprised that, like, even though I try not to be a producer, I've done a few things. Some have aged well, others have not. But at the same time, when people said, "Oh, you're just a DJ and we're paying producers more money," I'm like, "Great, I'll do some productions." And there you go. And some people are like, "Oh, you had a hit because you're an owner of Beatport." I'm like, it doesn't work that way, at least not with me. Just because I own something doesn't mean that's why I have a hit. It's actually everyone was buying it and playing it. So, don't backhand me on that shit. But I still don't view myself as a producer like other people. There's more famous DJs, there's more famous everything. But overall, I think I'm above average in all these things.
Would you consider yourself more like a DJ who dabbles in production?
Yeah, I've always been a DJ first. I backed into, I owned a studio. So when I met Rich and Kenny Larkin, I had the studio. I was doing hip hop recordings, starting in the late '80s. I was going back and forth to Buffalo, and I recorded a lot of guys. And then I realized I really loved, and I think, and then going to Detroit and realizing that the I just love I'm also like a disciple of Kraftwerk. So when the guy started doing 808 stuff, the Miami bass and the out west in California, that was my true love. I love soul and funk. And then the early days of hip hop were lovely. The real underground, the wild pitch, the all the stuff coming out of Philadelphia. I even did a party with uh, Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince in town. We had Public Enemy. I did a few concerts, so I was one of the first guys to book these guys because I loved this stuff, and it was really good times. But then I didn't like where hip hop went, and I was already kind of getting ostracized because I'm more of a classics guy. So I went back to my classics electronic, and when I met Rich, but Rich took me to an after party where Derek May was playing, and then I got to meet Juan Atkins. This is all in '89, and I was a pretty talented DJ. And I saw Derek. Derek was like the best of the three DJ wise, but the energy, and Detroit didn't have tons of people like Toronto, but Toronto everyone knew everything. But Detroit just had heart and soul. And then Juan inspired me with Cybertron because I mean that just phenomenal stuff. Juan's definitely a pioneer. But then Kevin having his hit, I'm like, these guys are honest guys. They're all doing their own thing, but together they're putting Detroit on the map again. And when I connected with Rich, I'm like, man, there's something special in Detroit. The attitude. Instead of complaining, people are doing shit, and so the rest is history. They were a really good inspiration, but I decided, even though I was more their age, Rich was younger, we were technically that second generation, and I took that inspiration, the kindness that they had. They would let anyone come into their studio. They were all living together in Gratiot, and I'm just like, wow. And even when we had our first records, they were really receptive, and whatever politics aside came of there, because we were, when I met Jeff Mills, when I heard him mixing as the Wizard on radio, I'm like, fuck, I mix at +8. This guy's mixing like we both evolved into mixing this way. People don't remember me for mixing like Jeff Mills, but when I heard Jeff Mills, I'm like, this guy's like my brother. Like he like Houghton was mixing the same way on the radio. There's a guy Scott Gordon, and they used to do a radio show, Hot Mix whatever, with Lisa, and Jeff Mills had his own show with the Fabulous Mojo, Mojo on W whatever on another radio station. He was the fucking man of the 80s, And when I go to Detroit, I'd get cassette copies of these, and I was super inspired. So Detroit, when I met them, I'm like, these guys are doing it, and I can do it. And they were that catalyst for me. And I've always been respectful to Detroit, whatever some of the other politics may have been, but our heart was always in a good place. And I have not, I was funny. I was chatting, I've been chatting a lot with Kenny Larkin because, I did the first EP with Rich, the second EP with Kenny. And, Kenny went on to do a lot of stuff. We kind of, went apart, but, it was just great to reconnect. When I see Derek May or, all the guys, it's just like, it's family, and we all went our own ways, but we're all still family. I've reconnected with, really good friends with Seth Troxler and his family, Sean Reeves, Ryan Cross, and it's funny. It's like reconnecting with your relatives, because the last few months have allowed me to kind of reflect my sense, but also reconnect with friends and fans, and I keep gravitating back to Michigan. Chicago's another story too, for sure. So, but Detroit is like definitely number one, given where we grew up and how we started. But Chicago is Derek Carter and Mark Farina, the first people I ever met. Derek Carter's handed me records, and we became instant friends. He's like one of my favorite DJs. I mean, it doesn't get better than Derek Carter. I mean, let's be real, and the way we met. And Mark Farina, first night I'm in Chicago, the guy who chose amazing records for me invites me to a party. So after playing a bit of a rave show with Speedy J, I go to this warehouse party with some two guys called Derek Carter and Mark Farina. And for some reason, I'm really enjoying myself. And they became my favorite DJs, that's pretty good timing. It's hard to, it was as honest and simple as that. But shit, I mean, on one hand, you can't time it better than that, and that's how it unfolded. But in being in the right place at the right time.
No, it definitely shows that you're very. You know what, the word maybe eclectic wasn't right. Let's
I'm
just say
open to I'm open to
diverse.
getting invited to parties, is what I'm trying to say.
But your sound is very very diverse, bro. You seem to have an ear for a lot of things, bro. Whether it's the
Yeah.
funk, whether it's industrial techno, even the Chicago house sound. Like you said, guys
If you
like
close your eyes, you'd never think it was me. It's I can fit in
you know what,
anywhere.
man.
I like to
It's
think so.
good. It's good. To enjoy all these kinds of things, and to be honest with you, to DJ every kind of style of music. I actually think that being
I
able to
love it.
make
Yeah.
funk records, bro. Not I mean, if all you can DJ is electronic music or house music, okay, fine. But I mean, you're not really challenging yourself,
Yeah.
bro. It's a fucking 4/4 kick, bro. If you can,
Yeah,
if you
exactly.
can spread
In
that
my
shit
sleep.
out, bro, then you can learn actually what it takes to
Yeah.
mix.
I'm into polyrhythms. I love the African stuff. I mean, a Nigerian house, like really, one of my favorite, like Shina Williams. But even, even like Tony Allen passed away a few months ago. But what he did for the scene, and he influenced Balearics. People think he's the greatest drummer. He's one of my top three. I have to say, Ayrton Moreira. Ayrton Moreira from Brazil is like the jazz man, but he is the master of polyrhythms. He is like the but this is the stuff that turns me on when I'm at home. I don't really listen to dance music. I listen to like just like food. When I travel, I don't go to like Spain to eat Japanese food, and I don't go to I mean I do everything in context. So but when I'm not doing my music, I'm listening to my passionate um, inspirational things that I've learned while traveling. Um, and I learned a lot about Brazil going to smaller clubs, checking out either the more commercial Age, but going record bin shopping. And I actually discovered Ayrton Moreira shopping with Norman Cook before he got famous again as Fatboy Slim. We used to play in Brighton, and he took me to this record shop, and I remember buying Celebration Suite that became a big hit. And it was Norman Cook that introduced me, and we would have all these late night sessions introducing each other to some rare grooves, and those memories are priceless. Sharing secret passions and tastes with people. You go on to become who you become, but you connect with people over a simple shared meal or a simple song of when you bought a song. And these are those priceless moments of going to a party and, oh, it turns out that these guys became famous DJs. That wasn't the fucking point. The point is, take a chance. If you connect with someone, go a little deeper with them, share some food, share some music, and be fucking open-minded. Because if I was a techno guy and I don't hang out with house guys, what does that make me? And that speaks to the world that we live in. It's not, I need to surround myself with similar fucking people. I'm comfortable with
You'd be
different
amazed that
people.
a
I'm
lot of
comfortable
the
with
big DJs right now are like, "Ooh, I'm not gonna hang out with anybody from the commercial side." Like the underground dudes that are so
right.
anti-commercial shit. It's like,
You were so we were in Singapore, and yeah, I'm friends with everyone. So part of the underground scene is like, fuck these people. What a bunch of shit, And so I'm friends with a lot of the guys, and I connect with a lot of them because they found a way to be who they are. So Steve Aoki, right? So we're with Steve Aoki, who's a sweetheart
he's
of
a
a
cool
guy.
guy,
You
bro.
know,
Yeah, I
now
got to meet him.
do
He's a
I
nice
do
dude.
I do I go to do I listen to a lot of his sets? It's not really my preferred
Yeah.
choice, but Steve is a lovely guy, and as a person, he's fantastic. So we're sitting in and just talking about technologies because I got technologies. I want Steve Aoki to know. I want Axwell to know. I mean, I know these guys. I've shown Tiesto stuff and whatever. It's all good. I mean, but to our fans, a little bit different. So Steve is like, this is being great. We're having tea with Steve. Steve's a teetotaler. It's cake and fake vodka or whatever it is. I don't want to, spoil his myths. But so Steve takes a photo and he puts it on Instagram or Snapchat or something, and he tags Houghton and he tags me. Now I don't have many fans compared to these two guys, but Richie Houghton's fans are like, "Holy fuck! What the fuck are you doing with Steve Aoki?" And Steve Aoki's fans are like, "Who the fuck is this techno guy?" Like everyone was just like, "What the fuck are you guys hanging out?" And what's
Nonsense.
wrong with that? Like I am super proud to know Steve, and I'm not embarrassed to admit it. And I and the thing is, he's unique. He found his way to connect with people And arguably it's a lot of fun. I just don't, I'm actually really boring to watch, but he's the opposite. He puts on a show. He's like, I was watching
He's
a
a real
biography on
hardworking
Andre the
guy,
Giant.
bro.
Like, it's like wrestling,
Yeah.
fake wrestling, but it's a great
Sure.
storyline. I was watching the story of, the Hulk and Andre the
You know
Giant.
what?
There's no
If you
way
want
the
to
Hulk
see
was ever going
something
to beat Andre
interesting,
the Giant.
check
But,
check out
you know,
check out his documentary that I think is on Netflix, bro.
I just watched it
Dude,
last night.
he's a very
And
very
so the funny thing
hardworking
is,
guy,
the
bro.
fun. So Andre the Giant, I relate to more, but I've done often things for the good of a scene or a club, and sometimes, like Vince McMahon, you know, where's my fucking thanks? Andre the Giant was the man who carried wrestling. He's the man who made, Hulk, and even up until the very end, right? The Hulk and Vince McMahon were still thinking, because they forced Andre to end his career as a bad guy, and he was a lovable guy. Andre did it for the Hulk. He did it for wrestling, and a lot of people who became new fans forgot that this was a joke and that Andre was a lovable guy, and all he wanted to do was be loved and love, and he was the friendly giant. And a lot of people turned on him, and it accelerated his death. It was very, very sad to see. I went to bed last night very sad, knowing that not all good people are respected. And Vince McMahon was asked, were you touched by his death? He's like, oh, I've learned to close my mind off, because Vince McMahon has had to step on a lot of people to get to where he was. So he has no regrets being an asshole. Hulk was tearing up because Hulk Hogan knew that, he respected the guy. But Andre the Giant, if he was selfish, like fucking, Vince McMahon or Hulk Hogan, because Terry, went on to, he was a bit of a, he drank his own Kool-Aid, right? But the Giant was as pure as it gets. And these people could not touch him. Vince McMahon, with all the drugs and all the, he injected, with all the money he made. Same with, like, the Hulk. Andre was larger than life. And he just fucking did it every day. And that's what some people need to learn. When you're an icon, there's false icons, and then there's the real deal, you know. And our world is still full of a lot of fabricated things and people, and that's fine. I don't need to, like, I don't get jealous of people a lot of people make more money than me, but it's not what motivates me. I don't care if a lot of people have more fans, but people need to see, the fans need to see and support who the real people are. It's like supporting a real chef at a small restaurant and not going to the trendiest restaurants. When I do a tour, even though I've got 5-star hotels and the best restaurant, I want to go to their favorite mom and pop restaurant because I want to support mom and pop. If I'm going to go to an after hours club, I'd rather go to an underground local club, even if maybe it's not the best music. I just want to get the best local vibe, the same best local dinner, whatever the local food is, I can eat it instead of I want steak
No, I hear
now,
you. I hear you.
or I want techno, or I want EDM. All that shit is irrelevant, So
But you know what? So on this show, I guess 2 guests back, I had Plastic Funk, and Ralph's a great guy, and Plastic Funk's been doing pretty well, and they're more on
Yep,
the EDM
sweet,
side.
good
Yeah,
people.
not
And it's
my
funny
cup of
because
tea
we all were
music
hanging
wise,
out in
but
Ibiza umpteen years
yeah.
ago.
But you know what? But like I said, the records aren't, like I said, my cup of tea in regards of what I would play. But nevertheless,
Sure.
the productions are great. People, really
Yep.
love their stuff. And him as a person, I admire him as a person. He's a great guy. So by
Yep.
all means, bro, I'm not here
Yeah.
to hate on any style, regardless of my
That's a
opinions,
great
bro.
example. I'm more friends than fans of their production, but there's nothing wrong with that. I'm
Yeah, man,
honest
teach
about
his
it,
own.
and that's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So look, man. Honestly, I'm super glad, dude, that you have an open
That
mind.
was a fun
dude.
combo,
Yeah.
man. That was a good. I think we covered some ground, and I didn't cuss too much, but I still spoke
Nah,
my mind.
that's cool, bro. You know what, man? Look, it's been actually 16 years since I've got to see you in
Yeah, you were
person
saying.
and to hear your
Fuck.
set, dude. So hopefully now, when all this shit ends and we can get back to business, bro. To be honest with you, I was actually supposed to be in Ibiza all summer this year. That got fucked up, and
Well, hopefully see you soon. I live there now, so I do consider it one of my
Okay.
homes. I'm going back in a few weeks. Super low key, but yeah, if you're there,
Nah,
let's
man,
grab some food.
we need
And
this shit to end.
thanks for having me on the show. And really great to reconnect. And hopefully we'll reconnect sooner. Tag me anytime you're in Spain. I don't get down to Miami much, and I certainly don't expect coming down at least
You're
probably
not
this
missing
year.
anything
But
right now. Yeah,
never say
you're not
never.
missing
Never
anything.
say
No.
never.
But dude, hey,
So
thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here, bro.
pleasure,
And
really
yeah,
pleasure.
man, it was a pleasure.